For years, PhDs and senior researchers have quietly gatekept what it actually takes to write a professional-level literature review. I have a PhD, and I don't want to be part of that wall anymore. In today's video, I'm going to walk you through the full process, how to organize your sources so they stop living in a chaotic folder, how to actually synthesize what you're reading instead of just summarizing it, and how to cite your sources accurately so your work looks and feels like it was written by a pro. And here's the important part. You do not need to already be an expert to do this. We're going to lean on Anara, a research workspace with brand new AI agents that can support you at every step without taking over your thinking. When you strip away the mystery, writing a literature review really comes down to 4 clear steps. First, gathering and organizing your sources. Second, analyzing and synthesizing the literature. Third, structuring and actually writing your review. And fourth, making sure your citations and sources are placed accurately throughout. That's the roadmap we'll follow together in this video. So let's start right at the beginning, because this is where most people already feel overwhelmed. Step 1 in any serious literature review is very simple on paper. You need to gather and organize your sources. In real life, that usually looks like 15 random PDFs and a downloads folder that wants to destroy your soul. This is where Anara actually shines, because instead of being just another AI chat box, it acts like a proper research workspace for scientists, researchers, and students who live in that chaos every day. Inside Anara, you don't just dump papers, you build a library. You can upload your research articles, book chapters, reports, and notes into one place, and Anara lets you search through all of them, ask questions about them, and even go beyond your own files to search the web, YouTube, and other sources without leaving the same environment. That means, instead of jumping between 10 tabs and 3 apps, you have one dashboard where everything important for your literature review lives. When you first land on your Anara homepage, it looks more like a control center than a simple chat. You've got a home dashboard that shows your recent activity, a library tab where your documents and folders live, a search section, and your chat history, so you can always go back and see what you've been asking and what the AI answered. Each folder can hold papers, chats, and notes together, which sounds small, but is actually huge when your project gets messy. As soon as you start asking questions, you can choose. Do you want to type a free-form question in natural language, or do you want to call in a specific AI agent that's designed for a certain task, like searching papers or creating flashcards? On top of that, you can pick which AI model you want to use. Maybe you prefer GPT, maybe you like Claude, maybe you want to try Gemini. Anara lets you pick, and even more importantly, it lets you decide where the model is allowed to look for answers. You can restrict it to your workspace only, meaning only use the papers I've uploaded, or you can tell it to look only on the internet, or to use both. That control over the data source is one of the key reasons this works well for academic work. Now let's make this concrete. Imagine you're working on muscle health physiology, and you already have a small set of papers you know you'll need. In Anara, you upload those PDFs and group them into a folder called something like Physiology Papers for Paragraph 2, because maybe you've already drafted the introduction and now you're working on a specific section. The power here is that you're not just stacking PDFs, you're creating a meaningful group. Once the folder is ready, you can ask questions about that folder alone. For example, you might say, search through my workspace and tell me, what is the main gap in the literature that these papers are all pointing to? Anara will read through the documents in that folder and come back with a summary of challenges and gaps it sees across those studies. It might highlight recurring themes like data limitations, regional blind spots, or missing long-term follow-up. But it doesn't stop at vague claims. Each point it makes comes with small numbered bubbles that link directly to the specific papers and even to highlighted sections inside those papers. So you can click, open the article, and see exactly where that gap is being discussed. That combination of high-level insight and traceable references is what lifts you out of the "I have no idea what all of this means" stage and into, okay, I can see what needs to go into my gap paragraph. Once you've got your first batch of sources organized, the next problem hits. You still don't fully understand the topic, and you know you don't have enough papers yet. This is where a lot of people waste days pretending to read, when in reality, they're just scrolling and screenshotting. Anara helps you break that cycle by letting you mix different ways of learning inside the same tool. Sometimes reading PDFs is just too heavy, especially when you're new to a topic. So instead of forcing yourself to suffer in silence, you can call in Anara's YouTube search agent. You literally ask something like, find me a video that explains muscle physiology in a very simple way. And the agent goes out and searches YouTube for you. It comes back with a list, some general overview videos, some more specific explainers, some short summaries for quick understanding, even videos aimed at kids that strip the idea down to its core. That might sound basic, but when your brain is tired, Having a curated list of simple explanations right next to your serious papers can help you build intuition much faster. You are still the one learning and thinking. The AI just saves you from drowning in unrelated content. Once you feel a bit more grounded in the topic, you need to grow your literature base. The 5 papers you started with are not enough for a solid review, especially if you're dealing with a niche like the 3 muscle types: skeletal, cardiac, smooth. That's when you call in another agent, search for papers. Instead of going to 5 different databases, you stay inside Anara and tell the agent, find me research papers on the 3 muscle types: skeletal, cardiac, smooth. You allow it to use whatever external sources it supports. And since your own library doesn't yet have much on the topics, it focuses on the open web and databases. The agent comes back with a list of papers, but not just titles. It gives you short summaries. Each item comes with a link so that you can click through to the original paper and verify it yourself, which is essential for trust. You can open any of these suggestions as a note inside Anara. And here's the part that really saves you time. With one click, you can add those new sources directly into your library. Let's say you see a PDF that looks exactly like the kind of foundational document you need for your review. Instead of downloading it manually, hunting it down later, and forgetting where you saved it, you just tell Anara to add it to your library. It downloads the file from the internet, places it into your chosen folder, and from that moment, it behaves just like any other document you uploaded yourself. You can ask questions about it, highlight it, and connect it to your other sources. In a few minutes, you've gone from, I think I need more focused sources, to, I now have a serious stack of relevant documents that live in my workspace and are ready to be interrogated. This is how you build a strong, targeted library without spending 3 nights battling different search interfaces. And by the way, if you're watching a video like this in real life, this is usually where I remind you. If you want to test Anara yourself, check the links in the description. I'll put all the access info and any current offers down there so you can try it without having to search for the right page. Now we move into the part that really scares most people: actually reading, understanding, and synthesizing all of that material. Step 2 in our 4-step process is analyzing and synthesizing the literature, and this is usually where time disappears. When you're staring at a 102-page PDF plus 10 more papers, it feels impossible to read everything deeply before your deadline. This is where using Anara again, but more smartly, can make the difference between panic and progress. Instead of reading every line in order, you switch to chat with documents mode. You open a folder related to a specific subtopic if you're in biology, or any folder that groups papers on one aspect of your review, and you decide how you want to view things. Anara lets you switch between a table view, where you see all your papers as rows with metadata, and a tabs view, where you can flip between full paper previews. If you'd like to see the real PDF pages, the tabbed view feels more natural. If you have a lot of papers and need a quick orientation, the table view gives you a clean overview. With the folder open, you start by asking simple but powerful questions like, what are the key findings across these papers? In a few seconds, Anara returns a list of main results, patterns, or conclusions, each tied to specific sources. Again, those little numbered references matter. Clicking them takes you straight to the part of the paper where that finding appears, which means you can verify everything instead of blindly trusting a summary. Now you're no longer guessing what the big picture might be, you have it in front of you with a direct line back into the original data. From there, you can ask more focused questions. One of the newer features that really helps is the ability to tag or mention a specific source in your question. Maybe you want to compare one paper to 2 others. You can tag that one article and ask, does this paper focus more on muscle aging than the other 2? Because you tagged the exact document, Anara knows precisely which one you mean, and it can explain how that paper's emphasis differs, using citations to back it up. This tagging step might feel small, but it's a big help when you're cross-referencing multiple studies and don't want your AI to get confused when you say the first paper or the second one. At this stage of the literature review, your real job is to figure out what is strong, what is weak, where studies agree, where they disagree, and where the gaps actually sit. You cannot do that if you only skim abstracts. Using chat with documents lets you move back and forth between big questions and specific evidence quickly, which is exactly what good synthesis requires. And if you're like many PhD students who have exams or comps on top of your writing, you can turn this analysis into active learning by using Anara's Create Flashcards agent. You choose the folder or papers you want to learn from, call the flashcard agent, and let it generate different kinds of questions. True, false, fill in the blank, multiple choice. Instead of passively reading, you're testing yourself on key concepts, methods, definitions, and results. That not only prepares you for exams, it makes your brain much more fluent in the literature you're about to write about. Once you've gathered and understood your sources, step 3 is structuring and writing the actual literature review. This is where many people freeze again, because they have a pile of notes but no idea how to turn them into a clear argument. The trick is to treat structure as a separate task, and Anara helps with this too. You go back to the chat where you've been asking questions about a group of papers and say something like, "I'm writing a literature review. Give me a draft outline based on these 3 research papers. Focus only on these sources." Because Anara already has context from your previous questions and the documents you're pointing at, it can suggest a structured outline, sections, subsections, and the main points that could go into each. The outline it generates is not magic. It's a starting point. The important part is that every section in that outline can be traced back to real references, and you can see which paper supports which claim. From there, you click Open as a Note. Anara turns that outline and its explanations into a note inside your workspace. You open the note in full view, away from other distractions, and now you have something you can actually work on. A draft skeleton of your literature review, written in your topic, grounded in your sources. You've already read enough to know whether the structure feels right, so now you edit, reorder, and add your own voice. The AI has helped with the heavy lifting of organizing ideas. You stay in charge of the final argument. That's how you keep the process ethical and still save a lot of time. The last step, step 4, is about citations and accuracy, and this is one place where small mistakes can seriously hurt your credibility. In Anara, you can use the Create Citation agent to generate references in the style you need, such as Harvard. You tag the specific paper in your library that you want to cite, call the citation agent, and in a moment, it produces a correctly formatted citation that you can paste into your reference list or bibliography. You repeat this for each source as you write, instead of leaving all the referencing to a painful all-nighter at the end. Because the citations are linked to items already in your library, it's much easier to keep everything consistent and to avoid missing references. In practice, this 4-part process, gather and organize, analyze and synthesize, structure and write, and then cite correctly, lets you move through a literature review in a way that feels controlled instead of chaotic. You're still the one reading, thinking, and deciding what matters, but the AI agents in Anara are handling the searching, sorting, and repetitive tasks that normally eat up your nights. And if you want to try working like this instead of fighting with your PDFs alone, remember to check the description for the link so you can explore Anara's workspace and see if it fits the way you think and work. I really hope this helped you see that a pro literature review isn't magic. It's just a clear process plus the right tools. Anara's agents can't think for you, but they can save you hours on searching, reading, and citing, so your brain can focus on the actual ideas. If you want to try it, I've dropped the link in the description. Tell me in the comments where you are in your thesis journey right now. And if you want the full AI workflow I use from first paper to final draft, watch the next video on the screen.